My name is Robert Wilson. I am the author of the article Clay Harvesting. In that article, I talk about how to locate, how to identify, and how to harvest clay. In this video, versus the article I wrote, I will be giving you some examples, some places where you can harvest some clay. I will be giving you a demonstration of me harvesting some clay, and I'll be going over some of the items you'll need to harvest the clay in a modern fashion. Well, I've been working on this video for about 1.5 years now. There's already 2 versions of it. This will be the 3rd version. So I'll be including takes from the other 2 versions into this version. I just want to make sure I have all the info out there and all the examples. So if you see me dressed one way and then dressed the other way, you'll know why. I apologize for that, but I do have some takes from each version, which is pretty good, and I just want to include it into this one. In making the previous 2 versions of this video, I have decided in this version to not add all the terminology and stuff. When I add all the terminology in my videos, I really bring in the big boring factor, because I have to add more explanation and examples with the terminology. So I'm going to keep the terminology down to a minimum and hopefully make this video a bit shorter and not as boring. Now, one of the first things you have to be able to do is identify the clay. Now, there's wet clay and dry clay. So let's talk about the wet clay, or wet soil with clay in it. One of the basic characteristics of clay or soil with clay is it will like to stick together, and it will like to stick to your hands. You'll pick it up, it will want to stick together, it won't want to fall apart, it will get your hands all muddy and nasty, all sticky. Also, you'll be able to roll it out into these long coils, and you'll be able to take the coils and make the coil knot, or to make the pretzel, and it won't want to break. That's a characteristic of clay. Now, when you get more soil in the clay, you won't be able to make these knots as easy, and it'll tend to want to break, but you'll still be able to make the coils, and it'll still want to stick together, and it'll still want to stick to your hands. Now, with dry clay, or dry soil with a lot of clay content in it, you've seen it. I'll show you some examples, but it likes to flake. When clay dries, it shrinks. So when there's a topsoil of clay and it dries, it'll shrink up. It'll make these tiles, these flakes, and the edges will kind of roll up a little bit. And I'll show you some examples of that too. We talked a little bit about the characteristics of clay, but identifying the clay is only part of the solution. We still have to find it. And you have to find the most ideal area to pull the most clay out. First, there are 2 types of clay. The primary deposit. This is what I was always used to seeing when it came to my clay. The deposit where you stick your hand in and you pull out a nice handful of clay that you can use right then and there, or add a little bit of temper in, and it's perfect. That's your primary deposit. This kind of deposit isn't something you're gonna find real easily out in the woods. This kind of deposit will also give you the purest clay that needs a less amount of processing. The other kind of deposit is what I call the secondary deposit, and this kind of deposit is best described as runoff clay. This is the easiest to find, but you'll need to be processed. And it's one of the more abundant types of deposits to find because it's runoff clay. But it'll be mixed in with the soil and stuff. And when it came to my clay processing videos, this is the kind of clay I used. I used the runoff clay, or the secondary deposit clay. Here is a mudding pit that I have collected a lot of clay from in the past. This deposit of clay could be considered as a primary clay deposit. Here's a good example of some dried clay. You will notice how it flakes up and the edges will curl upwards. Here's another good example of clay going from a dry state to a hydrated state. What you are seeing is a dirt road that gets a moderate amount of traffic every day. I am standing at a low point of the road where it will puddle more often and collect rain and runoff. You'll notice on the outer edges of the road where it gets less traffic will give the clay and soil a chance to layer as it settles. What you are looking at is a layer of sand that looks real gritty. Next to it, in an unbroken part of the track, is the top layer that is real shiny and smooth looking. This is the clay. In both layers, there is sand and clay. So clay can still be pulled out of the bottom layer of sand if you need to. Sorry for the camcorder slow focusing, but you will notice on the bottom of the clay layer, sand will stick to the clay. Looking on the top, you can see how smooth and fine the clay is. This clay should be able to be used as is or with a bit more temper added. To find clay, especially the runoff clay, you're looking for water runoff, erosion in places where water collection after rain. Real good examples right now because it's been raining. Basically, the water will pick up and move the clay, and it will like to collect at low points. But keep in mind, clay is not a rare or uncommon resource, like some other things. There's a lot of clay out there. Following the water and looking for possible collection points will provide you with, will give you the most likely areas finding clay in the soil and high content of clay in the soil. And actually, I could show you a few examples right now. So like I said, it's been raining. And right here, we have one example. It is sticky. It likes to stick to my hands. There's a lot of clay in here. It needs to be processed, but we could get a lot of clay. Sorry, we get a lot of clay out of the soil. So you can have a quick one. And this isn't even runoff water. This is just water, just collection. This whole field right out here, after a good rain, it will flood and it will stay flooded for a while. And here. So what I have is I got some soil, I pulled up, and you know, it is sticky. You can roll it. Not a lot, but I got a lot of other debris in here and stuff. It's only a small little bit. But it can be processed down, and you can pull clay out of it. Got some more examples here. Examples of runoff and collection points. Next, what I'm going to show you next, actually I don't think we're going to be able to see from up here, is a a little man-made pond that my neighbor dug out and holds water. There's a lot of clay in it. Sorry. There's a lot of clay in it. And it's just a little collection point. Over the years, it's been raining. Clay's been flowing down this little field and collecting this little area. But get over here and show you. Here's a field. Kind of looking up. Move down. You start looking down. And you see kind of slopes down. And right down in there is a little pond that was dug up. A lot of clay down there. At the little pond I was telling you. Great collection point. Some clay. Likes to stick together. Stick to my hands. But there's clay in the soil. It still feels gritty, but don't let that fool you. There's still clay in here. When you're making your preparations to go out and harvest your clay, there's going to be a few items you're going to need that will make it a lot easier. A shovel, 5-gallon bucket, preferably with a lid, kind of hand cloth, something to clean your hands off. This is the original spot. I took the photos for the clay processing article. So today what we're going to do is we're going to harvest some clay from here, and we'll be using this clay for the future clay processing video. What we're going to do is we're going to fill up this bucket 1/3 to about half full of soil. Kind of lazy and I don't really want to carry around a full bucket of wet soil. That's what we get for buying a crappy lid. There you go. My name is Robert Wilson, and I would like to thank you and taking the time and joining me in this journey of finding and harvesting some soil that we're going to process down and make clay. And in my next video, we're going to go over how to take the soil that we harvest and process it down into usable clay. We'll be doing this at home and in a modern fashion. To accomplish this, you're going to need a few items. One of the items you're going to need is some kind of container. I prefer these glass Dell pickle jar containers. I have a few of them. The more containers you have, the more clay you're going to be able to process at once. You're going to need some kind of sieve or strainer to put over the container and strain out the larger debris and particles that happens to be in the soil that we harvest. One of the other items you're going to need is some kind of cloth bag. The main purpose of this is to put your clay into and let the water seep out. And of course I'll be going over all these items again in the next video in more detail. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.